the time by Caldo Gospel Radio at 7:32, and we now join Attorney Gloria Brown for Land Matters. Good evening, Attorney Brown. By Caldo Gospel Radio at 7:32, and Attorney Brown.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me again.
Always a pleasure. Bless you. Over to you.
You too. Thank you. And good evening, listeners. Welcome again to Land Matters. And in these days, we are seeing more and more that land matters. Has been in the news throughout this week. We see new initiatives being put in place, and we know that we need to be secure in what we own. I'm seeing more and more interest from my clients, especially those abroad, trying to find out how can they secure the legacy, how can they deal with the generational land, the family land, we call it. And I'm glad for those interests. And I'm encouraging my listeners to secure what you have, because you can lose your property easily by persons occupying it without your consent. So act on it. Deal with the family land now. Don't wait to sort out the grandmother, the great grandmother, the grandfather, great grandfather's land. Get those estate administered. If persons are on it, let them sign documentation, let them sign lease if they were paying lease before to the grandparents. Sort out the estates quickly and act quickly. So if you have any question related to land ownership, please send me a WhatsApp message at 876-868-5109. That's 876-868-5109 or 876-535-8186. Okay, please remember, my name is Gloria Brown, and I'm an attorney in Jamaica with offices in Ocherios in the Jamaica National Building and also in Winchester Business Center, Suite 39. So any question in relation to land ownership, send me a WhatsApp message at the numbers I stated earlier, or you may also send the message to 876-387-3183. 876-387-3183 if you have a question. You're listening to Land Matters with Attorney Gloria Brown. Land Matters is aired every Tuesday at 7:30, and this series will end at the end of this month, and we want to thank everyone who has supported the program. Okay, up to this time. So we will end this series at the end of this month. So this is the time to get your questions asked, to get your concerns aired. And Land Matters is aired every 7:30, as I said earlier, every Tuesday on Caldo Gospel Radio, which is located in Ocherios, Jamaica. And this station continues to impact the lives of persons positively while fulfilling God's purpose. And we want to welcome those who will join or who are joining us via the radio stream on the app in the Google Play Store or on the YouTube channel. Please send your feedback to 876-868-5109 and any question, any query to 876-387-3183. 876-387-3183. I want to talk to you briefly this evening on surveying. And I try to get in my clients to remember that the term is not severe. I get my clients saying I'm going to severe my land, I'm going to get a severe. Okay, write survey. I always remind my clients that it's the same word we use when we sing the hymn at communion. When I survey the one just cross, because we really don't say when I severe the one just cross. When I survey the one just cross, that's the very word that we are talking about. You're surveying the cross. You're looking at the cross and looking at its dimension, looking at its location. You're taking it in. Okay, getting everything about it. That's the same thing you do with your land. Survey the land. Know the dimension, know the location. That's what we do with the cross. So the word is survey. So we're going to be talking about surveys. That's the first thing I want clients to do when I'm going to help them to get a title. The first thing I ask clients to do is to survey the land. Because the survey diagram will tell you, it will show you, it's a drawing. And it will show you the size of the land, where it is located in terms of nearest their neighbors. It will tell you who the neighbors are, the persons who are butting and bounding the land. The access to it, the diagram must show how you access the land. You can't have the land cannot be landlocked unless it's going to be held with another piece of land. So the survey diagram will show you the access to the land, how you reach the land, whether it's by a road, maybe it's a main road, a reserve road, a parochial road, or a right of way over somebody else's land. But it has to show you how you get to your piece of land. If it's a right of way and you're going over somebody else's land, you're going to have to get an easement from that person to show how you looking for permission to access your land if you're going over somebody else's land. That is extremely important to note. You need to know how you access the land. So the survey diagram is going to show all, as I said, all the boundaries, all the neighbors. It's going to tell you how big the land is, how many square meters, or if it's very, very big, then they go into hectares. The old diagrams will have acres, roods, perches. When we stop using those in the new dispensation, we don't use that kind of measurement again. Acres, roods, perches. Okay, and 40 perches make one rood, and 4 roods make an acre. But those are measurements. We don't use those imperial measurements again. We use metric. So we are into square meters and hectares. And about 4,000 odd, a little over 4,000 hectares will make 1 acre. So 2,000 odd hectares will make a half an acre. 1,000, a little bit, just like a little bit over 1,000, will make a quarter acre. And about 405 or so will make a square. And that's another old time measurement that we use that a lot of older persons know about. Okay, that's what a lot of our older persons know about in terms of measurement. Squares. So you hear they say I have 2 squares of land. I have 2 squares of land, or I have a square of land. But we don't use those kind of measurements again, but that's what persons can identify with. But 10 squares will make an acre. And we said an acre is 4,000 odd square meters. So about a little over 400 square meters will make a square. So the diagram will show the size. It will show what parish it is in. And it will also have what we call field notes. That's what the surveyors use in their own technical knowledge, shows measurements and dimensions and so on. It's going to show that in their, okay, they have field notes, which they can use. They can use those field notes and go back and locate the property. So when a neighbor moves the pig and feels that he or she has got away with it, a surveyor can use those field notes and be able to immediately know exactly where the pig should be. That's another part of the survey diagram. The survey diagram will also state who are the persons who were notified, because you have to give notice to persons when you're going to survey a property. You have to give notice to the neighbors, because the neighbors have a right to object if, for example, they are saying this property is mine. But they must know when a survey is being conducted, and the surveyor has to give them notice and allow them time to object. And if you want to object and a surveyor is there, the surveyors usually say that you can go and just put your hand on the tape that the surveyor is using and say I object, and the surveyor is to stop the surveying. And you might have to go to court for the court to give an order now for the survey to take place if somebody objects. And persons sometimes object without even having any reason, but the surveyor is going to obey the objection. The surveyor is not going to ask them what's your reason for objecting, and you can't object to the surveyor really. In most instances, will just walk away. And you might find that you have lost your money that you have paid the surveyor, because the surveyor has been paid and the surveyor has come to do the work. So you can't say that the surveyor has to get nothing because the survey did not take place. Surveyor has had to travel with workmen, take time out to come, go on the land, and then you have an objection. So you'd have field notes to say who were the persons who were notified, who got notice that a survey was going to take place on the 12th of May 2026. And also, there's also a space for those who turned up for the survey. So it's not just about those who were notified, but also those who were present when the survey took place. And of course, the date of the survey must be there. And you'll also see on some of them the date when the instrument that the survey is using was last checked. So this diagram is a comprehensive piece of paper. And usually it is colored in pink. The land is colored in pink. The road is colored in yellow. And any water source, suppose it's near to the sea, suppose the sea is butting and bounding on the land or a river, that's going to be painted, that's going to be colored in blue. So blue for water, pink for the land, uh, and yellow for the road. When this diagram is prepared by the surveyor, it has to go to the survey department for pre-checking. The survey department will give it what we call a plan examination number or a PE number. And when the survey department checks, they're going to check to make sure that this land is really where the surveyor says it is. If the surveyor says there's no title for it, the survey department will check to see if it's really land that is not titled, or if it is titled and the surveyor says it is in this title. The survey department will check it and say no, it is not in that title. That title is cancelled, or it's not that title, it's another title. And all of that is done. And then, if everything is in order, it is stamped and signed by the survey department. And now you have your pre-check plan that you can take to Gloria Brown, that's me, for me to start doing your title for you. That's the start of the process. And that is what the diagram is. And then when you have that diagram now and you come to me with it, then I always say to the clients, 50% of the work is over. Because when you come to me with that diagram, I can immediately start looking about your title. If you want me to get a title for you, so first you're going to get a title. The land is not registered, or there's a title for it, but you are getting a piece of it, or you're getting all of it, but it's not in your name. Your grandfather died and you're trying to sort it out. But the grandfather had a lot of children and you're the one living on it. Then I'm going to tell you to get me a pre-checked diagram and I can start the process. Make sure that the person that you are employing to do your survey for you is a commissioned land surveyor, not a quantity surveyor, not a building surveyor, not a surveyor's technician, but a commissioned land surveyor. And you can go online and look for the listing, and it will show you all the commissioned land surveyors in Jamaica. And you choose from among them, but don't just let somebody come and say, I'm a surveyor, and give them your money. Know where the office is, make sure the person is on the listing, and it suits you to get the ID of that person. Because I could come and say, I am surveyor John Brown. When I'm not a surveyor, I take your money and disappear. Or I come survey the land and you cannot get a diagram out of me. Ensure that you have employed a commissioned land surveyor to do your survey diagram, because you might find that you have paid in vain, or you have paid and the person is not competent. The person produces a diagram and the diagram is incorrect. The diagram has not shown that there is an encroachment on the piece of land, that the land has a piece of title land is running through it. Many things like those I've seen, and persons have run into serious trouble. That can become a problem. So I'm begging persons, make sure whoever you employ to deal with your matter is a commissioned land surveyor, just as you should ensure that whoever you employ to deal with your title is a lawyer. And also you can find a listing of lawyers on the General Legal Counsel website. You can always research or just call the General Legal Counsel. Is Gloria Brown a lawyer? Is Gloria Brown a practicing lawyer? Make sure. Okay, so and you can even call the survey department or the Land Surveyors Association to say, is John Brown a commissioned land surveyor? It's important, extremely important. You're listening to Called Out Gospel Radio and you're listening to Land Matters. Land Matters is aired every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on Called Out Gospel Radio, which is located in Ocherios, St. Anne. And this is just one of the many features of this station. So I'm encouraging persons to tell somebody about the station, so the station can grow and continue to fulfill God's mission, because it's so important that we go out into the world and let persons know that stations like these exist. Let persons know that programs like these exist, because more and more we are seeing how important it is. And we have listened to the news and the concerns about different policies that are coming in place and how these will impact persons' ownership of land. So it suits everybody to have a piece of paper to say, this is mine, this is my title. Do not wait until the evil days come. Do not wait until trouble comes to start looking about your land title. So I've explained to you what the survey diagram is, and you'll get it. Sometimes it's on a thick, when the survey is ready with it, sometimes it's on a thick piece of cardboard, or most times it's on plastic. So the paper is plastic. And this survey diagram will last for 7 years. So if you don't get a title, after 7 years, you're going to have to update that diagram, and the surveyor has to come back out onto your land. So and you have to pay sometimes just like the cost of the survey sometimes, because the surveyor has to come and ensure that the pegs are in the right place and everything is in order. And the surveyor will not do a new survey or a new survey diagram that has to go back to survey department unless when the surveyor comes, he or she realize that the boundaries have changed. So, for example, your property was on a road, but in and bound in a road, and the road has been expanded and has taken off a portion of your property. Then the surveyor will have to do a new survey diagram for you. But if everything is in order, then the surveyor will do a declaration for you, and that declaration will last for another 7 years. It updates your diagram. Even though the surveyor will not put anything, write anything on the diagram, will not change the date or anything. When you just staple that surveyor's declaration onto your diagram, it updates the diagram for another 7 years. But try not to have your diagram for 7 years and it expires, and then you have to go and pay a survey. If you get a diagram, start acting on it to get a title, because when you get a title, then the title can't expire. The diagram on the title cannot expire. So try to use up your diagram as soon as you can. I remember I was working in another space, and we tried to help persons to get title. And when we called in persons, there were so many persons who had surveyed their properties already, which means that persons had already taken steps, but they had not followed through. They had not gone through, because a lot of persons, we realized, felt that the diagram was enough. Have your diagram and paying your taxes. A lot of people comfortable with that. But the danger of that is that somebody else can come and get a title before you. And when it comes to titling, we say the first in line is the first in time. So if I get my title before you, you're going to be in trouble, because you're not going to be able to get a title. No, you're going to have to try and defeat my title and show that I got it by fraud. And that's an expensive process. You don't want to have to go through that. So I say to you, do not wait until a fire appears before you start looking about your title. Deal with it when everything is okay, when you don't have to rush in the lawyer and say, I want it, no, 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 because etc. Deal with it when you can go along easily, because the challenge is that we're having serious problems in terms of processing of titles. What used to before, I say to my client, before COVID, I could say to the clients, after we advertise, give me 6 weeks or so and for the titles office to produce the title. Now a year is passing and we have advertised, and a year is passing and we're not getting the titles, because there is also a problem in the survey department. So a lot of persons will call me and complain to me that a surveyor came and surveyed my land 6 months ago and I can't get my diagram. And I'll have to say to them, no, go easy on the surveyors. Because before COVID or earlier, before COVID, a lot of surveyors would say to you, we can give you your diagram, you'll get back the diagram in 2-3 months. No, when they don't get it, when they get it back in 6 months, it's as if they have got it quickly. We're having serious problems. So even though the government is rolling out all different kind of titling initiatives, they need to look at the base on which they are building these things, because there is a serious, serious problem when it comes to getting titles. And what's that, when the government is doing these programs now, then that also is putting more burden on the system, and the system is not being strengthened to deal, okay, so it does not have the capacity to deal with these many things. So we're having serious challenges, which is why I'm saying to us, do not wait until you want the title to get it. Get it now. And when you get the title, there are so many options you have. So even in surveying, another thing that is shown on the survey diagram, which I should have mentioned, is who is the person who initiated, who is the person who asked the surveyor to survey the property. That is written on it. Be careful who you put on it, because you might say, oh, on the diagram, I'm going to put me and my son. And then when you're ready to get the title, you decide you're not going to put on the son. The son has to give permission now for you to use the diagram. So when in doubt, put your name alone. Because if your name alone is on the diagram, that's fine. You can put any names you want, any number of names on the title. So be careful who you put on your diagram. Because if you put me on your diagram with you and you're not putting me on the title, I'm going to have to give you permission, or you might have to go and ask the surveyor to do over the diagram and take off my name. So something as simple as that is significant, is important. So there are a lot of little things. And I heard a client say even today that a surveyor said that he had to put somebody on the diagram with him. I don't know where the surveyor got that from. Put your diagram in your name alone. If it's your land alone, you and your spouse, you own the proud together. Put both of you, but you don't have to put on the children on the diagram. That's unnecessary. That's unnecessary. Okay, because as I said before, whoever name you put on the diagram will have to give consent. Make sure that if the surveyor is coming to update your diagram, that you clear the boundaries, because the surveyor has instruments that they need to be able to see from one peg to the other peg. And it's going to be cheaper for you if you clear the boundary more than the surveyor has to come with their staff members to come and clear your boundary. So clear the boundary before the surveyor comes. That's important. Very, very important. And if you know where the pegs are, even locate them before and protect your pegs. Sometimes the surveyors will put up concrete monuments, but if you know where the pegs are, and a lot of persons do it in some communities, they put they put certain markers. You're going to some communities, like in my community years ago, they used to plant some little trees they call mortel. I think it's really immortal because it's so easy to catch with a little red flower looking like a machete, a little red flower. We used to call it mortel, but I think maybe it's immortal because it didn't die easily. Some persons use croton to mark the boundaries, but have some kind of marker. Put something there. Even maybe you can even drive an iron peg, a piece of steel, a long, long piece of steel near where the surveyor has put the mark. Or put a soda bottle over the peg and spray it. But have something to know where the boundaries are. And let the next generation know where the pegs are. It's important that the next generation, all of us with church lands, etc., where the older members know where the boundaries are, let the younger generation know as well where the boundaries are, where the landmarks are. Protect your property, protect your boundary. If you can, maybe you might not be able to put up a wall because the land is big, but put something. A lot of times, when growing up as children, our parents would make these nice stone walls. Nothing fancy like what you might see when you're building a house, but stones packed on top of stones, and you know that's the boundary. Or even just put in some trees and use some barbed wire fencing, even one strand of wire to help to mark your boundaries, because we're very territorial when it comes to boundaries. And I've thought of the nightmares in places like Black River, where such a devastation took place with Hurricane Melissa. How are persons going to be able to find the boundaries now when the ackee tree and the mango tree no longer exist, and we knew that those were the boundaries? So that's going to be a serious nightmare in a lot of places, which is why we wanted to make sure that if you have those survey diagrams, the surveyor should be able to go and use them to help to reestablish the boundaries. And the iron pegs hopefully will still be there if they were put in place for those who have surveyed the properties, because I don't think, well, for some of them, the iron pegs might not be there because water has taken over some of these areas. So there's so much to say about every single area that we might look at, because just looking at surveying of property, we realize that there is so much, that we are talking for half an hour just about surveying land. You're listening to Land Matters on Cordell Gospel Radio, and Land Matters will be aired for the rest of this month every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on this Cordell Gospel Radio, which is located in Ocho St. Anne. And the aim of this station is to impact the lives of persons positively, educating, informing, because when you have the knowledge, then you know how to act. If you want me to get a title for you, just WhatsApp the word title to 876-387-3183. WhatsApp the word title to 876-387-3183, and I will gladly assist you in getting a title for your land. But I wish when you want me to get the title that you would come to me with a survey diagram already. Get a commission land surveyor. And it suits you to know who are the surveyors in your area, because it's cheaper for you to find a surveyor down in Darliston, Westmoreland, than for me to find a surveyor in Kingston and send down there to you, because you're going to have to pay expensive traveling. So when you look online at the surveyors who are in operation, who are okay, the commissioned land surveyors, you can see because addresses are there. So you see who are the ones in Mandeville, who are the ones in Savo, the ones in Morant Bay, in Spanish Town. You can look and see, and then you can choose accordingly. But ensure that you also keep in touch with your surveyors. Keep in touch with them to know what is happening. Let them advise you as to where you are in terms of where they are in terms of the processing of your documents. And I always tell my clients, tell the surveyor as soon as you have lodged the diagram with the survey department and it has got an examination number, get a copy immediately and give your client, because when the client comes to me, if all the information I need will be on that copy, and I can start preparing the documents. So by the time the surveyor has got the diagram out of the survey department, I will have all the documents signed and ready, just waiting on that diagram so we can act, so we can buy some time, because the process is already slow. Remember, you're listening to Gloria Brown on Cordell Gospel Radio on Land Matters. Land Matters aims to educate, to inform. And be reminded that you can always go on the YouTube channel and look for Land Matters, and you can listen to the other areas that I've spoken on. I've spoken on tenancy, titling, letters of administration, probate, many other areas that you can get information on. Because it's always good when persons have knowledge, when persons have information, when persons have the know-how and know how to act. And I never talk without encouraging my clients to make their wills. It's important, and more persons I'm finding are coming in, especially older persons, and making their wills. And that is very, 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 very good. And I encourage persons to each one tell one the importance, so we have less confusion, and we have less troubles and less trials, and we have less persons complaining and less persons fighting over legacy. When we put things in place and things are properly done, then persons might grumble, but it's difficult for them to fight. And there's nothing wrong with grumbling, to say that mama never left enough for me, more than the fight because mama did not make any provision or make any preparation in terms of what is to happen. So I beg of you, write your wills. If you can't get to a lawyer, buy a will form or write it on any kind of paper, an exercise leaf, a folder leaf. You can do it on that. I want to say thanks again to the team at Cordell Gospel Radio. Thank you so much for entertaining this program, Land Matters. Thank you, listeners, for sharing, and we look forward to sharing again with you next week, God willing, on Land Matters. Have a good evening.